Hello and thanks again for joining us this week on Agenda 2030. I hope your week has been great. I am Toyin Nkamiang John. On this episode, we will be bringing to you developments around the implementation of the SDGs in Nigeria. After this break, stay with us.
Nigeria will continue to support the United Nations in all its efforts, including the attainment of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I thank you.
Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind. Agenda 2030. As a successor framework for the Millennium Development Goals, the global community rolled out a bigger, deeper, and more encompassing framework called the Sustainable Development Goals, designed to transform our world, lift the poor out of poverty, as well as ensure inclusive and healthy society. On Agenda 2030, we take you on a media trip to the global destination of the future we want. With everyone on board, we focus on the people and their struggle, the civil society and their agitations, the government and her development effort, the global development agenda, its 17 goals and 169 targets. We bring you all the deliberations, insightful conversations and high-level partnerships on the road to global destination. Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind.
Remember, you can always watch this program and other episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channels on youtube.com/Fresh News TV and youtube.com/Agenda 2030 TV. You can also watch the program live on Facebook. Just log on to www.facebook.com/Fresh News NG and www.facebook.com/Agenda 2030 TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Agenda 2030 TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drop your comments and share with your contacts. Do use the hashtag Agenda 2030 and the hashtag Agenda 2030 TV. The Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs is the federal government office charged with the responsibility to coordinate the overall efforts in the implementation of the sustainable goals in Nigeria. In this interview, Mr. Bala Yunusa, the Senior Technical Advisor to the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, will be taking us through the activities, policies and programs of the office in the implementation of the SDGs and the milestones recorded since 2016 when the global agenda came into effect.
Broadly, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals were adopted in 2015 by world leaders, including our own President Muhammadu Buhari. And following that adoption, Nigeria acted very quickly in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs. And the 2030 Agenda envisions a present and a future that is economically sustainable, socially inclusive, and environmentally resilient. And that is expressed through the framing of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And the goals, also known as the global goals, are a universal call to action to end extreme poverty, safeguard the planet, and ensure all people enjoy peace and prosperity by the year 2030. So Nigeria acted very quickly, like I said, with the establishment of the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals right in the presidency, with four-fold mandate of strategic coordination, planning, and guidance for the SDGs, that of representation, advocacy, and partnership building, that of resource mobilization and management, and that of monitoring, evaluation, and reporting for the SDGs. So broadly, this is the mandate of the office. And since 2016 January, when the implementation started, approaches have been at the national and at the subnational level. At the national level, we are working closely with the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies to ensure that we integrate the Sustainable Development Goals into the sectoral policies and plans of the ministries, department, and agencies. We're working with the National Bureau of Statistics to ensure that we realign the national statistical system with the requirements and indicators of the SDGs. We also appreciate the fact that we need to work at the subnational level, so the states and local governments, we need to support them to integrate the SDGs into their respective medium and long-term development plans for us to be able to make meaningful progress as a country, since we run a federal system. So we use the instrument of conditional grant scheme to incentivize the states and the local governments to ensure that they spend in key SDG-related sectors. For example, the 2018 focus is on health and education, and we are providing conditional grant through this office to the states, and that is the sort of strategic approach that we have towards the implementation. We've done baseline SDG indicator baseline survey in partnership with the National Bureau of Statistics, which will be able to give us a starting point for the SDGs, and that document is available. So once we work with the National Bureau of Statistics to realign the statistical system, we will be able to track progress towards the SDGs down the line. So broadly, that is what the experience has been, and we look forward to how we can strengthen partnerships with ministries, departments, and agencies, both at the national and the subnational governments, state and local government as well.
With a robust experience in the first 3 years of the implementation of the SDGs in Nigeria, it was not surprising that Nigeria was called to lead other African countries in presenting a voluntary national report to the United Nations High-Level Political Forum in 2017. The best practices put in place were roundly recommended by all. While the country still basks in the euphoria, Yunusa is of the view that the early successes so far recorded can only be sustained with all hands on deck. But how well has the agenda been received by stakeholders in Nigeria?
The whole idea of sustainable development goal is to leave no one behind. So we have all the state and non-state actors alike. We are working closely with them, both at the national and at the subnational level, to ensure we get the buy-in of critical stakeholders. So this office has been able to establish or facilitated the establishment of the Donors Partners Forum, which is a platform that brings all the donors and development partners under one umbrella for proper coordination and in support of the sustainable development goals. We also have the private sector advisory group, where we have key players within the organized private sector, basically to be able to tap their expertise and as well as financial resources in support of the SDGs. We also recently have the civil society advisory group on the SDGs. It's a platform for non-governmental organizations, broadly non-state actors coming together to share experience, support the implementation of the SDGs, both at the national and at the local level. So and then we represent this through this office. We provide international or global representation when it comes to the entire 2030 agenda for sustainable development globally. So that we've been doing.
With poverty prevalence, challenges of out-of-school children as well as maternal and infant mortality presenting a huge challenge in the attainment of the goals, Bala Yunusa also spoke about the strategic steps deployed by the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs to attain the SDGs, particularly in the areas of Goal 1, poverty eradication, Goal 3, good health and well-being, and Goal 4, quality education.
Okay, so it goes back to the institutional structure that we have put in place. At the national level, this office exists. Resources are appropriated annually in support of the implementation of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And so we are working with the federal ministries, department, and agencies of government. In each ministry, relevant ministry, department, and agency, we have SDG focal person mostly at the directorate level. And so these are the interface between this office and the relevant ministry, department, and agencies of government to ensure that we mainstream the implementation of the SDGs in that target ministry. I give, for example, 3 or 4, arguably, of the SDGs are within the mandate of the Federal Ministry of Environment or the corresponding environmental ministry at the subnational level. So we support the ministry to ensure that they come up with policies and programs that support the achievement of those specific goals that relate to that sector. That applies to education, health, agriculture, power, Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, Ministry of Water Resources, as the case may be. So in all these relevant ministries, department, we have the focal person working closely to ensure that we achieve the SDGs. So like I said, this at the state level, we are supporting the state through the instrument of conditional grant scheme and some specific interventions to support the achievement of the SDGs. But like I said, we need to emphasize that the role of the office is that of coordination. I can give example, the National Social Insurance Investment Program of the federal government is actually working towards the achievements of most of these goals, specifically SDG 1, 2, and 3. So we're using the 3 or 4 components of the social investment program, that of homegrown school meal program, that of conditional cash transfer, that of Empower, and the growth empowerment program, which has 2 components, the microfinance broadly. So these are all interventions by the federal government in support of the achievement of the SDGs, and so that links to SDG 1, that of no poverty, SDG 2, zero hunger, SDG 3, basically quality health and well-being, and also down to SDG 4, quality education, because these are all multi-sectoral interventions that have spillover effects on other goals. And I must also emphasize that the SDGs are interconnected, interrelated. Often to make progress on one goal, you need to make progress in a particular target or indicator under a different goal, as the case may be. So that has been our experience, and 2016 to 2018 December, that's pretty 3 years. So we look forward into the 2019 where we will scale up most of the work that we are doing in providing strategic guidance and coordination for the SDGs implementation in Nigeria. Our partnerships broadly, both at the national and at the subnational level, will enable us to achieve that objective. And what we're doing, we're coordinating all the implementation. So across the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, programs and policies are being implemented that will help achieve food security for smallholder farmers and invariably reduce poverty and hunger in Nigeria. And so that is it. So the Anchor Borrower Scheme, all the interventions that reduce, help improve agricultural productivity have direct positive relationship with poverty reduction and food security. So the component of the social investment program, which this government is taking very seriously, it's also helping to reduce, like I've mentioned, achieve goal number 1 and 2. And then you can argue 3 and 4 as well. No poverty, zero hunger, and then that of quality health and well-being, as well as quality education. These are all, and poverty, we look at it broadly, the multidimensional definition of poverty, which has to do with income, consumption, as well as the human development component, which health and education falls in. So we're looking at it multidimensional poverty, and once you target goal 1, 2, 3, and 4, you will be helping poor people come out of extreme poverty and achieve their full potential. So that is for that. We have, as an office, we are coordinating the implementation of out of school children. We are at the design stage where we want to see how we can address this out of school children phenomena. There are about 10 million out of school children in Nigeria, and this is unacceptable. We have to do something about it, and this office has, in the wisdom of the senior special assistant to the president on SDGs, she has directed that we work towards getting that. So 6 pilot states are on pipeline to begin to work and address this phenomena. So that the 6 most pronounced states across the 6 geopolitical zones have been selected to pilot that. So like I said, we do the conditional grant scheme to the subnational governments, where we provide conditional grants where we ask the states to match that grant amount and invest in health and education. So addressing the human development component of our work. So broadly, this is what we're doing in ensuring that we achieve these specific SDG goals and targets in Nigeria.
Unlike the Millennium Development Goals, the successful implementation of the SDGs heavily rests on strategic partnership across vertical and horizontal strata. Since the commencement of the implementation, Nigeria has been mobilizing all stakeholders for sustainable partnership. In order to better align public-private partnership for sustainable development in Nigeria and to also mirror the Global Private Sector Advisory Group, PSAG, the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs has set up Nigeria Private Sector Advisory Group, whose membership includes private business leaders of major companies from various industries in Nigeria and the presidents of the National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, as well as chambers of commerce. But what impact has this made in the overall effort?
We have the 5 pillars of the Sustainable Development Goals. You have the people, you have the partnership, you have peace, and then you have the planet. So this prosperity, obviously, being the 5th one. So, and the whole 2030 agenda is based on the spirit and letters of partnership, that no one can achieve these SDGs without the support. And obviously SDG 17 is that of partnership for the goals. So really underscoring the importance of partnership. So all the work we are doing, it's driven by pragmatism and partnership to ensure that we implement the goals. So the partnership is with state and non-state actors, individual and groups. So, and I've also taken time earlier to enumerate the platforms that we've created to strengthen partnership for the goal, both locally and internationally. So this office is supported by international organizations, the UN system working in Nigeria, UNDP, UNICEF, WHO are all working in this wide area. So in terms of specific partnership with national bodies, I can give you, for example, this office partnered with Coca-Cola to kickstart the Safe Bath initiative, which targets about 10 tertiary level facilities across Nigeria to basically improve, enhance their capacity and also their capacity in terms of human and material resources to be able to deliver first-class services. So so we partnered with Coca-Cola to implement that. Coca-Cola is sponsoring that. We did the commissioning in October at the National Hospital here in Abuja, and then about 9 other tertiary facilities across the country are also to benefit. So these are classical examples of the sort of partnership that can deliver Sustainable Development Goals in Nigeria.
Although the 2030 target date for the attainment of the SDGs is still about 12 years away, leaders and countries are not leaving any stone unturned as they continue to generate momentum for the goals while aligning developmental priorities. Questions are, however, being asked if Nigeria is on track.
Okay, so let's put it in context. Just as we began the implementation of the 2030 agenda in January 2016, Nigeria found itself in an economic recession in July 2016. So that forced the country to craft a medium-term development plan, now tagged the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, ERGP. So in crafting that, this office ensured that all the three dimensions of the Sustainable Development Goals, the economic, the environmental, and the social dimensions, were integrated into the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan 2017 until 2020. So that gives us the opportunity at the national level to, if you like, integrate or mainstream the SDGs or the dimensions of SDGs into our national development plan, that's critical, and that is also good. So in terms of challenges, yes, we had recession and resources became scarce, but we had to spend ourselves out of recession as a country. But that doesn't in any way stop the implementation of the SDGs, because going by our national SDG implementation plan, the first 3 years of the SDG implementation, it's actually that of sensitization, advocacy, and partnership building. So in principle, the full-scale implementation will take effect anytime 2019. So all that we've been doing is to develop partnerships, mobilize resources, setting up institutional framework, and which that has been working. Of course, some investments in health, education, water and sanitation, all the key sectors that are directly related to SDGs. So that has been going on. But in our own grand plan or design is to lay the foundation during the first 3 years and then take it to the next level in terms of full-scale implementation beginning 2019.
And that's our package for the week. Remember, you can always watch this program and other episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channels on youtube.com/FreshNewsTV and youtube.com/Agenda2030TV. You can also watch the program live on Facebook. Just log on to www.facebook.com/FreshNewsNG and www.facebook.com/Agenda2030TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Agenda 2030 TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drop your comment and share with your contacts. Do use the hashtag Agenda 2030 and the hashtag Agenda 2030 TV.
Agenda 2030. As a successor framework for the Millennium Development Goals, the global community rolled out a bigger, deeper, and more encompassing framework called the Sustainable Development Goals, designed to transform our world, lift the poor out of poverty, as well as ensure inclusive and healthy society. On Agenda 2030, we take you on a media trip to the global destination of the future we want. With everyone on board, we focus on the people and their struggle, the civil society and their agitations, the government and her development effort, the global development agenda, its 17 goals and 169 targets. We bring you all the deliberations, insightful conversations, and high-level partnerships on the road to global destination. Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind.
Thank you very much for being part of the program this week. We will see you again next week. I am Toyin Nkamiang John. Until then, bye.